But you, beloved, you who are the perpetual object of God's love, but you, beloved, ought to remember the words that were spoken to you by the apostles. You ought to remember what was spoken, what was declared over your life, what was spoken into your situation. You've heard words, teachings, insights that forewarned you that this day would come, and now we're there. It's interesting, he says, remember, recall to your memory. And many times, there are times that people struggle to remember words from God. It could be in a setting like this. You hear a word, and in that moment, you may be there and you're hearing it, but then somewhere down the line, months later, you can't recall what was said. And one reason we can't recall a word is because we don't treasure the word. We don't treasure it. It is said of Mary, after her apostolic encounter, her angelic encounter, that is, that it says she treasured those words, and then she pondered them in her heart. That is, she gave them value from her perspective, and then she invested herself by thinking on those things. Amen. See, it's important that when you hear a word, that you treasure it, you give it value, and you recognize its existing value, and then you go back and you think about it, you review it, you get it in your spirit. Another reason people don't remember a truth and a word spoken in season is because in the process of it all, they don't see the relevancy of that word. It may be a word that speaks to a particular situation, and you say, well, that's not really my situation. It's not relevant to me. And they make a disconnect. But understand something. Relevancy is not affirmed or settled by you. Biblical relevancy is affirmed and settled by God, because there's a word that God can speak in a season that may not be where you are now, but it may be where you're going. And many times in the grace of God, he speaks to us now what we would consider to be out of season to prepare us for the next season. Oh, it appears like, Pastor, you were speaking to those who are married and I'm single. Well, you're just not in that season yet. Well, it appears that you were talking to people who were single and I'm not, and I'm married. Who knows what may happen in the future? You better receive everything that is spoken, that is said. God is speaking to you. God is declaring something to you. And how many knows you can be in a moment in time, and you feel like that's not for me, and then you find out down the road, that was for me. So to be able to recall those things, treasure them, and then recognize the ongoing relevancy of what God is saying. He says, you ought to remember.